From New York City to Los Angeles, Powered Up Talk Radio is giving women of all ages permission to live the life they'd always dreamed of. Here are your hosts, Sandra Beck and Linda Franklin.
Hey everybody, this is Sandra Beck and I'm here with Linda Franklin, and this is Powered Up Talk Radio, and we're going to talk today with Lisa Transcendence Brown and Fred Lanzetta, and we're going to start with talking about grief, about loss, we had a loss of our beloved Lucy, who made a cameo on our show a couple of months ago, and as a result, we've been talking a lot about where does the different dimensions, where does the light body fit in with all these things that are happening. I'm going to turn the mic over to Linda so that you can talk a little bit about Lucy and about the things that you were experiencing, that we experienced together with respect to this loss.
Well, it's been a devastating loss because Lucy was more than a little pet dog for me. I don't have children, and I gave her and she gave me everything, more love than I've ever seen or felt in my whole life. That was back and forth. She was everything for me. I didn't go on vacation for 7 years because I never wanted to leave her alone. I just poured all the love, all the caring I had into this beautiful little dog, because I never felt that heart opening before, ever, not with any person. And over the years, she's really done a job on opening it up. And now that it's opened up as wide as it is right now, the pain of losing her was excruciating. And it still is. It's not quite 2 weeks yet. And I brought her home her ashes the other day, and that was another wailing fit. And the crying comes in waves. It's like wailing in waves. I know that in time it will get better. I know that she's still with me. I believe all of the work and the ascension and the dimensions. I know she's somewhere around me. I just can't touch her, feel her, kiss her, rub her belly. So that's pretty painful. But the grief was just, as I said, I never felt it before. And Sandra actually, can I share that, Sandra?
Sure. Sandra
actually got a message from Lucy the night before she passed away. And what she said is, I'm happy, I'm okay. I put her on a ventilator because I wanted her to be comfortable. I didn't want her to have any stress or any pain. And she came to Sandra and she said, I'm fine, I'm happy, so don't worry about me, but what I'm doing is I'm going to set Linda free. And when Sandra told me that the next day, I had a little talk with Lucy's soul. I said, I understand what you're saying, but you don't have to, the freeing doesn't have to be this drastic, but she had to leave, and she left. Subsequently, Sandra had another download from Lucy, and Lucy was on a mission. Lucy was my soul dog, my spirit animal. She was on a mission. She completed her mission of opening my heart wide, and that was it. And the other thing she said is, all the love that you've given me and I've given you, you now have to consolidate all that and bring it into yourself, so that your heart expands even further, and then you can go out and share all that love, whatever thing you need to do in the world. And you couldn't do it if I was around. So honoring her, I am going to do that, because otherwise her death would have been useless, and she was too beautiful and too important for that to happen. So I'm honoring her just as she honored me, and
it's beautiful.
I'm not crying, so that's a good thing. One question for Lisa. I know this is a diatribe here, but I was asking to Sandra, is grief linear? I know that if you raise your consciousness, you wouldn't feel the grief, but I don't think that would be a good thing either.
Well, it depends. Okay, so you guys know me. We go everywhere, okay? But the thing about it is that there are different levels of consciousness. And so when we actually reconnect, back to pure source consciousness, then everything else is a different level of consciousness. And so if we're functioning from a human ego consciousness, the reality is going to be very different than it is if you are coming from a pure love consciousness. Okay, so human ego goes into lack and need and attachment. And so like when you're talking, Linda, a lot of this, what a lot of people don't understand is that, and I've been talking to and working with a lot of people lately, okay? Ascension is a very different ball game than anything anybody experienced before. None of the human rules apply. When you get into multidimensionality, everything changes. So grief, anything less than pure love, the very pure. So when you said, Linda, I'm not crying, so that's good, that's our ego talking, because crying opens your heart.
Yeah, well, I've been doing a lot of it. I just didn't want to do it here. But
it's okay. But you know what? Crying is a really important part of the release process, where you're releasing on a cellular level. You're releasing programs. Grief is a program. Grief is a mentality. But it's also all of our existences. It's not just this one. So what you're clearing and cleansing isn't just this human existence. It's your Lemurian, your Atlantean, your galactic. It's all of these other existences, which is why it feels so big. Why it takes you so deep. Because every time you clear the things that aren't awesome, all of those lower, and they actually have a frequency bandwidth. If you actually look up the vibrational frequency of grief, you will find that it operates at a lot lower hertz than 528. I'm going to go into playing right now. And the fifth dimension starts at 528 hertz, if you will. And so any emotion that is of grief or sadness and all that stuff, it's of the old 3D earth. When you hit 5D inside of you, you don't have grief. You have love. You have appreciation. You have gratitude. But there's no sadness. The sadness is a part of the old. Does this make sense? And so Lucy, on a soul level, we have contracts, we have agreements, and everything that we came here to do. She assisted you with finding that place inside of you where that love was.
Yes.
So that you could bring it forth and open it up. Now I'm going to say, and it sounds unkind, but I'm not being unkind. I'm explaining a process, okay? Being able to feel that love all of the time, if you in your mind have assigned that you can only feel that love with Lucy, then that's a separation thing. We're to feel that that love that she showed you, that's opening a portal inside. Okay? Bringing that love through. Right now, a lot of people are going through, which is a really important part of the process, is physical body ascension of our consciousness, multidimensionality. They're all different rules, if you will. They're cosmic law, they're universal law, they're different codes. It's everything through light. But there's zero dependency here. A lot of people, the realities are changing because anything they were dependent on is going. Okay?
Yeah.
And I'm going to say this just to make a point, if you're dependent on Lucy to be able to help you feel that love, you're going to be shown that love is inside of you and you don't need Lucy. Does this make sense?
Yes. Yes, it does.
And when she said, I'm freeing you, this is a part of why. Is that so one of the linear reasons, if you will, is so that you can feel that love all of the time for yourself, for each other. And that's the gift that Lucy brought. Yes.
Yes.
Was to help you find that love. The grief is ego attachment. You'll clear that, and what will happen is when you think of Lucy, you'll have nothing but appreciation and gratitude and joy. But the lower dense emotions, yes. That's what your body's clearing. It's a cellular cleanse. all the mentalities that go along with it, you're clearing those too. So your mentality that you could only feel that love if Lucy was around, it isn't true.
No, I realize that now. Yes.
I know. And it's hard when you're going through this, and you don't know how many people that I've talked to, it's not loss, it's a gift, but it feels like a loss because the loss is what brings up photonic light, which is the light of our soul, which is as star beams and light beams and all this kind of stuff. It unanchors the heavy emotions from the body. Our earth has reached a vibration so high that those lower dense emotions, those lower dense programs, those lower dense belief systems, they can't stay in your body anymore. The body has to clear this stuff. That's actually, ego is what killed the body. And most people don't understand death. Transcending ego programming is transcending all the lack and the need, transcending all of the separation, the love that she assisted you in feeling, then the ability to gain access to feeling that all of the time is the gift she's given you. So that you can bring that, feel that, and that love. The reason it was so special is because it was pure.
Yes.
It's pure love.
Unconditional pure love. Yes.
It is completely pure. Yes, it is. But if you look at the love, it wasn't pure if it was dependent. It wasn't pure if it was need. If you needed Lucy to feel that way, then Lucy had to honor her contract to leave so that you could find that on your own and bring it forth on your own. Does this make sense? In a weird, bizarre way?
100%.
This is how it works. And I've been working with a lot of people lately, and they're going through the same thing. We don't understand that what we perceive as loss isn't really loss. It's opening our heart. It's bringing the walls down. All those walls of protection, all those walls that were around the heart, when it's time to really wake up, they come down, and sometimes it's pretty intense. Sometimes it's off the charts intense. And sometimes it's, here's the thing. Our ego used to be able to control everything. If you'll notice, you didn't get to control this.
Not at all.
That's the point.
Not at
We're
all.
not meant to control our feelings anymore. We're meant to feel. If it's an uncomfortable feeling, in our old days, we would shut it down. We didn't want to feel that, or we would judge it, and we would shut down. And this, I'm working on some other stuff right now, and all of this is to reconnect each one of us again. A deep, sacred soul connection, star family, soul family. But our heart has to be wide open for that to happen. We can't put things over each other. We can't forget. So humans forgot that we love each other.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead. So it's just, it's all about feeling, Linda.
Yes.
It's really about allowing yourself to fully feel and not judge it or try to stop it, because we don't understand there's an immense amount of, for a while, there's an immense amount of grief. There's an immense amount of feeling of loss. But what will happen is, as all that energy clears, I wrote a thing not too long ago, is allow your ego to mourn certain things.
Nice way to put it.
All of the, and I hit something a couple weeks ago. I don't even remember. I woke up and there were rainbows, but I was clearing some stuff. Some of my realities were not fully aligned, and we have to align our realities, and we have to mourn the ones that we put a lot of energy and time and love into if they're not working and they're not fully aligned. And it's like, okay, mourn them, close them out, let them go. It's okay. But remember, something more awesome is coming. Remember, your new realities are coming, and they're more beautiful. And so be excited for what's coming while you allow yourself to mourn. It's called,
I want to tell you this.
Sure.
What you've given me, and what Sandra's given me and Fred, this is a gift because it's a gift when you can see the bigger picture. Otherwise it's senseless.
Right. And we don't understand.
Doesn't get up and die in 2 days. I mean, it doesn't happen. So when there's a purpose and a reason, it makes it okay.
That's the important part. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, and look at it this way. She gave you the gift of you.
Yes.
That's the biggest thing that anyone can do, is to reconnect us with pure love and help us bring that through. And you know, a lot of people I've been talking to lately, they don't understand, and they're focused on what they're losing instead of what it's bringing forth from within them is the ability to reconnect and feel from a pure place.
Yeah.
The ability to feel that love, which is the love of our soul. That's why you identify her as a soul partner.
Yes.
Is because your connection was on a soul level, but all the constructs of the ego are all the other stuff. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so,
yeah. Well, it explains why, like when my mom died, I thought I was the most selfish person in the world because, it was terrible and it was awful and everything. And there were all those things, but I never felt more loved. I never felt more connected. Yeah. I never, I heard from people I hadn't heard from in, 20 years. And then I felt all this love and I thought, oh my, I'm so self-centered. Awesome. My mom dies and I'm the one feeling all the love. But
that's actually what all this is about. But if our ego gets involved, we don't understand. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is about love. All of this is about love. This is about opening our hearts so wide that we can accept that love. Our human ego can't accept that love. It pushes it away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's all this unworthiness. There's all these stories. There's all this, who we can feel love around and who we can't feel love around. And then you get into all of this stuff. And the thing about it is, and this is really what's important, higher conscious humanity, all of New Earth is built on love for each other. Okay, that's what this is about. We separated off from each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this morning I'm writing a huge thing because it's like, have you forgotten how to feel and care about each other? Really, truly, because on a human level, we don't.
Sure. All you have to do is turn on the news or go walk down the street and everybody's disconnected. We're connected to electronics. We don't even say hello anymore.
And this is what this is about, is to feel, to come from that pure place, that connection, that you actually care about each other.
And appreciate.
That's what all this is about. You're learning to care without the limits.
Oh, I love
care. That. Yeah, we had conditions and limits on how we would care, or who was worthy or deserved it, and those go out the window. We have to care about each other. So I'm gonna shift the conversation just for a moment. When we get into the different systems and all this kind of stuff, a lot of people are relying on systems to tell them how to live their life. Systems, dependency on these things. This is about each person connecting inside and expanding their consciousness beyond all of these things, and looking at your reality and figuring out, how do you show each other? How do we all come together, work together, play together, and share? And really care and put aside and transcend all of that separation from before. And the more loss we have, the more our heart opens.
Right.
Because we're not losing, we're actually gaining. It's the opposite. But the perception, Linda, it's going to depend on where you're sitting in any given moment as to how you view the whole thing. If you are sitting in your ego and your heart is hurt and you've got pain coming up and you're clearing lower vibrational energy from your cells, you're going to have one perception. Whereas if you shift your consciousness and you shift to love and appreciation and gratitude, and you see all the beautiful things that Lucy helped you open up inside of you to access, and that's what this is.
Yeah.
That was her role.
Yes.
then you can actually look at it completely different and as a beautiful gift and opportunity, and you won't feel bad. As your ego will still be hurt. Your ego will still be bruised. Your ego is still going to mourn. Does this make sense? Because all those, that's the cosmic Akash clearing. All of this stuff clearing, all these emotions, all this story, all this kind of stuff, that's all Akashic records clearing. It's all old matrix programs, the whole thing. This is about purity. This is about love. This is about us all being reconnected again and not putting anything over each other. And that's really what all of this is about. Go ahead, sweetheart.
Lisa, don't you think that it's also like, I know when I was grieving for my mom, my grief for my dog, you know, that passed away, Misty and Smokey, when they died came up, and, you know, decisions I made, my divorce, like all these things.
But you're attaching, our human attaches the grief to the thing.
Okay.
The grief has nothing to do with the thing. That's what we don't understand. On a higher consciousness, from a much higher state of consciousness, it's grief energy. You're clearing grief energy, which is an unconscious program that isn't love.
Right.
And that thing was the thing that played a part in helping you clear that energy from your body that kept your body anchored in the lower dimensions.
Got it. Okay.
This is about fear energy, grief energy. All of these things is about the energy and the programs in the body. Anytime our ego's involved, we attach it to a thing.
Okay.
When in essence, none of this is about that thing.
What a great way to look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of those things on a soul level, soul agreement played out a role, and that's where it actually ends. When that play is ready to conclude, when that storyline is called a timeline, when that reality is ready to collapse, because old unconscious realities collapse. Okay, when that entire thing is ready to conclude, collapse, you know, you're converging. This is a harmonic convergence where everything's brought into harmony and love and much higher vibrational frequencies and all this kind of stuff. When it's time for you to shift to a higher vibration, then anything that isn't pure will go. Everything is to get our heart wide open so we can feel with the body. The body was asleep. So Linda, we were talking about high blood pressure earlier. This is a part of that. The amount of pressure in the body and the body trying to pump. The body's trying to wake up. And it is let me tell you, when the walls around our heart start being ripped down because we couldn't bring them down ourselves, when the walls around our heart start coming down, it's intense in the beginning. All those protection mechanisms, all that judgment, all of that fear, all of that stuff around our heart has to be wide open all of the time and never close again. Never, for no reasons. No more fear. Moving the body out of the third and the fourth dimension into the fifth dimension, literally, means transcending all of that. That's called separation. It's programming. It's a program that our body held. And so we pay attention to the stories. The stories will tell you your mentality. The stories will tell you where you're functioning from. The stories will tell you everything that you think. When in essence, if you let the story go and just really connect from a really deep place inside of you, the story doesn't matter. It's all just, it's love. Mm-hmm. And the reason all of this is happening is because on a human ego level, everybody shut down, everybody went to sleep, everybody disconnected, everybody forgot how to live from a place of love.
Did we ever know, or is this new for the new earth that we're experiencing now?
It's new for the human ego. On a higher level, yes, you already know all of this. You've already experienced all of this. You already have done all of this, and you've lived it in all of your existences. And the more your heart opens the more we surrender to this process, the more our light body activates, the more our DNA starts rewriting everything. So Fred, you were talking about the muscles and all that kind of stuff. And then Sandra, you and I were talking about the light body earlier. Mm-hmm. Our human ego can't see how every bit of this is connected. Our human ego, Linda, I'm going to say this to make a point. Your universe did this. You are your universe. Your higher self needed your human to go through this so you could merge with your higher self. Because these things were the things that were in the way. If that makes any sense?
No, it makes 100% sense. Absolutely.
I know it's sense in a weird, it's quantum. It's all about energy. And it's all about, and what we don't understand is every person, the fifth dimension and much higher, we're in the 12th dimensional template right now. I woke up this morning, there's a whole new thing going down with that template, which is a part of what I do. But what we're talking about, Gaia has raised her frequency so high that every person on this planet, their whole world is about to be restructured for them. Yeah. Their whole world is being redone because everything is being realigned on a soul level now, not a human ego one. All those ego constructs, all those dependencies on systems, all those dependencies on something outside of you to tell you what's pure, what's right, what's wrong, everything's inside. And our whole reality changes when we have to actually live from that love and not our ego. And that's what's going on, is that every person has to learn how to live from that loving and kind and respectful. We didn't have that capability on an ego level. We are the ones that went to sleep. We are the ones that disconnected. We are the ones. And what happens, Linda, you're going to start to see that she has given you the greatest gift. She's an aspect of you. So technically you gave you this gift. Mm-hmm. Because your heart is going to open huge after all of this goes.
Yes.
And the purest love is going to come through you. When the sadness and all that stuff is allowed to clear, if your body needs to cry, cry. It's so important because it's a cellular cleanse. It's clearing your Akash.
Yes.
Your body is begging to release. It's the energy of grieving. It's the energy of attachment. It's the energy of dependency. It's the energy of give my power away. It's the energy of all these things that are clear in everybody's body. And it's a vibrational frequency that is no longer aligned on a soul level. Grief is not aligned with your soul. So your soul is pure. Your soul doesn't feel this stuff, but your human ego does. Mm-hmm. You're clearing human ego programming.
Lisa, why does all this have to be so painful? You know, like I think of your story and how much trauma you went through. I look at mine and how much heartache, and I watch Linda suffer so much. And even
hold on. Close your eyes for me for a moment, because which aspect of you is talking to me right now?
My head.
Your ego.
My ego.
Your ego doesn't like any of this stuff. And that's funny, because you shifted into why does it have to be so painful? You went into victim mode.
Sure.
A victim to ascension, a victim to I know I'm playing with you, but this is how it works.
No, I get it. I'm here to learn.
The thing about it is that the reason it's painful is because every person is clearing their cosmic karma. Okay. It's painful because, and I have to say this many ways, because each dimension, each vibration, each level of consciousness has a different truth. And so if I say this to you, and then I got to move over here and I got to say it this way, and then I got to move over here and say it this way in order to even bring all the little pieces of the picture in vibrationally, you're clearing your karmic debt for everything you have ever done in this existence against humanity, for every unconscious act, and all of your other existences are simultaneous from this moment right here. They're not past lives and they're not future lives. You're clearing them vibrationally. And so the reason it's so harsh is because every one of us went to sleep. And this is to wake us up. Waking us up means moving us to living from our hearts and a place of purity and unity. Living together, working together, supporting each other beyond the old systems. And a lot of this is everybody relied on something outside to tell them what to do.
Sure.
That all is going. That goes.
Wow.
All of it. You have to go inside and sit until you get your answers. You have to go inside and consult your higher self, your universe, and talk to your universe and open up and feel and allow yourself to vibrationally align. And then when you get up, you have to act from that place. So many people ran around talking a good game, but nobody lived it. Now you got to live it.
Right.
You don't get to just run around saying the words. That's all ego. You actually have to show up. We, all of us have to show up every day for each other. We have to care that much. You can't turn a blind eye to the things that are not aligned on a soul level anymore, because they're now going to affect your life. In the old days, it's let's all of us ignore it. Let's pretend, let's not listen to the weird, bizarre stuff that doesn't fit into our reality. You know, let's just, that is ego. And we are here to evolve humanity into a much higher state of consciousness where everybody lives from a place of purity and love, where the ego stuff doesn't come into play anymore. Nothing will ever be put over each other when you live from a fifth dimensional. This is living from a fifth dimensional consciousness, an ascended state of consciousness where you are connected with everything as one. There's no grief, there's no blame, there's no pity, there's none of that stuff here, because that's all ego. You will mourn, you will cry. There will be times you will be dropped to your knees. You're going to be so exhausted when photonic light activates inside of your body to shut you down and put you to sleep, so your DNA can rewrite itself, so that the linear constructs of your body and where you function from will completely change. Your light body functions completely different than your human body did. But your light body is integrating in your physical body. And a lot of people kept thinking they were going to get another body. No, it's going on inside of your body. Your light body is your soul body. It means your soul is coming through. And your soul is pure. It doesn't have any of that other stuff going on. All of that is ego. And that's what's being broken down inside of each person's body. Does this make sense?
Yeah. Is that why we feel differently? Like when I look before, you know, if like before, you know, everything crashed down in my life, I felt very differently about the way I see things now. Even when people commit what would be considered an offense against me, they lie right to my face. Somebody lied right to my face recently. And it didn't.
That's because in the old days, you believed the words. In the old days, you put your trust in other people. In the old days, you didn't listen to yourself. And now when they lie, you understand that it's just not true. And
Right.
You're not giving your power away, and you're not putting any belief in it anymore. And the biggest thing is not to judge it. This is where you decide what you're going to allow in your world and what you're not. This is where you come into your power and say, this is acceptable, or this is not. This is where you say no more to unconsciousness. If you're going to act that way and behave that way, you're not going to be a part of my reality anymore. This is where you take a stand against separation. This is where each person comes into power. You don't have to fight the old.
Right.
You're creating and living the new. Which as you create and live the new and come together and unify, the old goes on its own naturally. It doesn't have to be a fight and a struggle unless you need it to. Because that means that you are still pretending that it's somebody else's fault. Pretending but somebody else has more power, and you keep giving your power away, and you're the one that's not coming from honor and respect. So yes, Sandra, when you see this happen, you've connected enough inside that where you're coming from is different.
Yeah. I didn't react. I didn't even feel anything. I just sat there going, he's sitting here lying through my teeth. It was an employee. And I sometimes, like the old Sand would have rationalized it and go, well, he doesn't feel comfortable, or, I'd make up some story in my head. And then this time I was just like, well,
yep. Well,
next.
and you're going to find this happen more and more and more and more. And the reason being is because those realities are no longer vibrationally aligned, and distortions are loud. They scream at us. You can actually see. And I've been, talking a lot about telepathy with people lately, which is the human's word. It's energetic communication. So basically you're reading the energy, you're seeing things, but you're not taking them personal.
Right.
The human ego takes everything personal. Everything's personal. Linda, I want to say this to you because I keep seeing this in your energy and stuff. You're going through a place of feeling lost without her. Okay. And so, but that lost place is really important because it's a shedding of identities. So as you feel that, understand that lost place, it'll last for a little while. And what will happen is more of you will come through you, and that will go away. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
So if you feel, a lot of people are going through feeling lost right now because they're disconnecting from the old or the things that they were connected with or going, and so that new realities can come in, and those new realities are you reconnected more with your true and pure self, your source self. And so, but when you're transitioning out of realities where we had connections and attachments and cords and need and all this stuff going on, when those, I'm going to call it, a cord is severed like that, sometimes we feel really lost for a little while. So be patient if you find yourself going through that. It's an important part of the process too.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sandra, when we're talking about the light body, when we're talking about all of these things, your light body DNA is intelligence. Okay? Your light body DNA and what we are in is a complete DNA rewrite of the earth, a complete DNA rewrite and genetic rewrite. And there's so much going on a molecular level. There's so much going on a cellular level in each person's body that the human aspect doesn't get to control this part. This is a surrender to a process that makes no logical sense. But then if you see, here's the thing. Our ego wants the explanation first. And as long as we need a logical explanation, we end up in this loop cycle where we're resistant to a process that is going to have to occur. Because it was predetermined by every person before ever coming here or incarnating or birthing or walking in or whatever each person's story is.
Okay.
We agreed before we ever came to this planet, to everything that's going down right now. And I have a ton of stuff to share that I haven't been able to. But only because of time, energy, all the work we do. 3D represents prison, incarceration, and I have a huge thing that's an activation on this. But the thing about it is that we, on a soul level, on a galactic level, we actually agreed to all this before we came here. So breaking out of prison, if you will, breaking out of the constructs, breaking out of those belief systems, breaking out of all that means opening our heart to higher states of consciousness so that we can actually see. So that we can understand and go beyond those mentalities and those beliefs. In order to return, we're not trying to get somewhere. We're returning to states of consciousness that we disconnected from, or we fell from consciousness. Okay? And it doesn't matter. Each story has a different, when somebody says, how did we fall? Well, I can tell you all the different ways, because, you know, you can go into Lemuria, you can go into the stars, you can go into, they all apply because they're all true. They're all different aspects and versions of a truth. Mm-hmm. They're all different dimensions and spaces of consciousness. But the thing about it is heart closed, unconscious. Mm-hmm. 3D. 4D is where every person wakes up through. We have to wake up through unconsciousness so that we can see it. Heart wide open, no lack, no need, no judgment, no attachments, literally none. Rebirthing ourselves as innocent. Mm-hmm. We rebirth ourselves. Linda, you will feel an innocence come through you more. Look at your baby, Lucy. She represented what was innocent and pure. Mm-hmm. Which means that when you had that love with her, that's what you were connected to, was that innocence and that purity. And that's the energy that we live from, though, here. And so she just showed you where it was inside of you. Her role was to be there while you found it.
Yes.
Her role was to be there to show you, and every time you connected with her, it opened up more and more and more. And when she had done her job on a soul agreement and she had completed her roles, it was time for her to exit. It's called exiting. So that you could do this on your own. That's actually one of the greatest gifts that each person and animal, because I've had a lot of people going through this with people in their lives.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's one of the greatest gifts that we can receive, but our ego doesn't understand it. Okay? So it's really allowing your ego to mourn. Don't judge it. Allow it, honor it. This is about feeling. Your whole body has to feel. We protected ourselves from feeling. We feared feeling. We judged feeling.
Stuff them down.
All that stuff's got to go. This is no more oppression, no more suppression, no more of all that stuff. That's all ego constructs. And that's so a lot of people, I'm going to say this and throw it in here because I don't know if we'll get to cover the whole topic because we have time. But this whole thing is about your body waking up, your body coming alive, your body coming online with the new earth grids, which are pure. Your body is trying to clear the density and all the unconscious programming that it once held. And this is what shuts the body down and plays a part in physical death. Our bodies awaken. We didn't understand our bodies were completely asleep. We didn't understand our body had a consciousness of its own. It has to completely come alive and feel everything. And the part of the process of feeling everything is all the heavy duty stuff too.
Yeah.
It's a beyond important part of the process. The only thing is the more we're in our head about it all, the longer we stay there. Whereas if we will just open up and allow it to occur and not judge it and understand it's an important part of the process, but we don't have to stay there. We can grieve and do something kind for somebody else. Mm-hmm. When I was going through my roughest days, I got up and did kindness for other people, and it opened my heart more. This is where you transform energies. I took that grief and I turned it into something productive. I turned that hurt into something productive. I turned all that stuff into something that made a difference for others and helped others. When I was having my roughest days, I would get online on Facebook and I would share inspiration for everybody around the world. That's what brought me joy. I realized I could take all of that and I could turn it into something productive that assisted humanity. It's called transforming and transmuting. But in the beginning, I had to feel it. Mm-hmm. And it was intense. I went through all of it. it is what was keeping your body stuck in a lower dimension, if you will. The third dimension is unconsciousness. And so a lot of people don't understand, in the old days, the old mentalities was that the third, fourth, fifth dimension was an etheric realm. That's not true anymore. The fifth dimension is the reality we walk in, and we walk in much higher dimensions than that. When you function from a Christed state of consciousness, love consciousness, crystalline consciousness, light consciousness, when you function from these levels of consciousness, then we get into God, source consciousness, and all these different levels of consciousness. When you function from these higher places inside of you, your physical reality, actually, you transmit out a different vibration that returns a different physical reality to you. Well, on a human level, we didn't have that capability because all these emotions and beliefs and mentalities got in the way. And that's what the body's clearing. So Lucy has assisted you with clearing your body of all of the heavy-duty emotions that were actually getting in your way. Does this make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. When you're going through all of these transitions, and you're the queen, so you're ahead of us. But how do you deal with people in your immediate world that are stuck in that lower consciousness, and they don't stop you from doing your thing, but they're not there yet?
Well,
I remember once you said you don't allow people in your house if you send them down to the ocean to clear before you let them in your house. So how does that work?
Well, one of the things that we learn as you come into higher states of consciousness, each one of us do, that it's up to us and our responsibility as to what we allow in our realities and what we allow to occur. But it's even bigger than that. You start to understand that if you're the conscious one, you can bring anything into consciousness if the other person is ready, if their heart is open enough. Part of everybody's role here is to bring consciousness into every reality and come from a place of love. For humans, if somebody else is in their ego and their heart is closed, then they get in their ego and their heart closes, and you got this whole battle of the egos going on. The question is, when you see somebody that doesn't, I'm going to use this word, but even saying they don't get it yet, they're not awake yet, they're your reality. Mm-hmm. They're your reality. So the question is, what is your role? What did you agree to do on a soul level with that person? Did you agree to assist them with coming into consciousness by showing them what love is? Or do you turn your back and just go, oh, they're unconscious, and walk away? Do you take responsibility for your reality? I evolved my entire reality. There's not one person in my reality that doesn't get taught. Mm-hmm. And the reason I say taught is because the human has to be retaught everything all over again. The human ego aspect doesn't know how to be conscious. Now, I'm going to say this, saying they're not ready yet is a judgment.
Right.
They're your reflection. What does that say?
You're not ready yet.
Well, the thing about it is how do you assist them through consciousness? Sometimes you don't say anything at all. Sometimes you just treat them with love and kindness and you walk away. Sometimes you have to stand in your power and say, no more. That's not the conscious way. Right. Consciousness is love. And a lot of people get hung up on the words. Mm-hmm. Okay. It is not loving to be unconscious and unkind to yourself. So if you have somebody in your reality that isn't conscious, there's going to be a level of disrespect. Right. When you look at everything from an energetic level, you will actually see the level of consciousness everybody is functioning from. Mm-hmm. And if they're unconscious, what does it say about you? I can always be the conscious one in my reality. I can bring everything into love. Mm-hmm. Unless the person's heart is closed and they say, I don't want that reality. And then I move to a place of respect. I give them a hug and I let them walk away. I just don't need them in my reality. That's the difference.
Right.
I don't need unconsciousness in my reality. Therefore, I don't keep experiencing that. Mm-hmm. But I can look at every person. And here's the thing. The higher the level of consciousness you function from, the more you can connect with them and see what's really going on with them. Do you care enough about them to listen? Mm-hmm. Do you care enough about them to assist them Do you care enough about them to connect with them and see what they need?
Mm-hmm. Or to see them.
Exactly.
Honor where they are and try to help.
And no, we don't help anybody. That's old. That's ego.
Bad word.
You're here to be the light.
Right.
You're here to guide and assist if they're ready. And I'm going to use if they're ready in one capacity. So here's the thing. Each person has codes in their body that when a certain frequency, when their body, so the human body was carbon-based. Our body evolves into crystalline and plasma and then get into, it's an actual genetic, it's an actual DNA, it's an actual complete metamorphosis of the body. Ridiculous upgrades that we have to go through, ridiculous cleansings and clearings that we have to go through to get our body clean and pure. Our bodies have to operate at the absolute highest vibrational frequency in order to do this. So everything you allow in your field affects your body's consciousness.
Right.
Every person that comes into my reality, I can see their purity. I can see their soul. I can see their human programming, and I can actually present it to them in a way that isn't offensive and isn't judgmental and is kind if it's appropriate. Sometimes it's not appropriate. Their body, their light codes will turn on when it's time for them to wake up. I respect where they are at this time. You don't know how many people have come into my life and we go apart for years. Their journey is a very different journey. They're going to go somewhere else and do their journey. They don't need to do it in my physical space. Mm-hmm. I'm going to respect, because what's going to happen is that they are going to have the exact experience that their soul agreed to. It's each person's human lack and need that wants to control it or interfere with it or impose upon it or try to fix them or change them or fit them into your reality. When our human ego says they're not ready, you're actually saying they don't want to do it your way.
Right.
Do you notice how much ego programming we got going on that we don't even know exists? That's your judgment that they're not ready. Mm-hmm. Now, technically, in one capacity, it's true. You don't know how many people through the years that I've gone through, they weren't ready for this. Mm-hmm. They wanted a different reality. Totally fine. We don't all have to be in the same physical space together. It's only the human ego that says that.
Right.
We don't have attachments. We have respect. We actually go apart for many years. We come back together. We check everybody's vibration and energy and see who wants to actually create new amazing realities together and who's still playing the old games. And it's like, okay, not yet. Give everybody a hug. Everybody goes apart. You go apart for a while. If there's any programming going on, here's the thing. If there's any programming, human ego programming going on, you don't have a reality that's aligned. That reality will collapse. Mm-hmm. Because the basis you created it from wasn't pure.
Right.
When we come together, you check and see, are we able to connect on a soul level? Are we able to connect from that pure place? Are we able to connect and come together, work together and share? Or are we playing a karmic timeline out again? Mm-hmm. And if there's any unconsciousness going on, it's karmic. We don't create realities out of karma when you're fully conscious. You don't. You just close that portal, that door out. You love them, but you let them go play their karma out somewhere else, because the moment you pull them into your reality and you allow, that's your karma now.
Right.
This is about respect. Mm-hmm. The division between old earth and new is vast. Yeah. And the reason I say that is everybody playing out an old earth reality isn't in new earth realities. They're separate realities. Mm-hmm. But it's not, that's the polarity. Does that make sense?
Yep.
When you come into contact with each other, distortions are really loud. They scream because of the electromagnetic energy that we live in now. Yes. Okay? You can see The beauty of this is when each person actually functions from their highest state of consciousness, all the ego story stuff, all the BS stops.
All it stops.
We don't play that stuff out. We call it out. We look at it from 12,000 directions. We break it down. We move it out. The beauty is the higher the state of consciousness, the purer the relationship is. You don't even have any of that stuff happening. That's why, Linda, when I say I don't let people come up here until they've gone and gotten themselves aligned, because when they come into my house, they have to have their heart wide open. They don't get to bring their ego into my house. Otherwise, I give them a hug. I see their heart is closed. I see that they're pretending. It's all fake.
It's all fake.
There's no reality. Now, I don't judge. I just choose. Do I want that as my karmic experience, or would I rather have a pure reality and exchange?
Right.
The difference between me, if you will, and others is there's no question in my world as to what's acceptable and what's not. It has to be pure. It has to be aligned on a soul level. It has to be our highest place. Otherwise, it's karmic, and I don't play karmic timelines. They collapse. Why would anybody choose that?
Right.
The other thing is to understand, and I've had to have this conversation a lot lately, is we on a human level don't understand what our body is transmitting out. Purification of the body gives you the ability to transmit a pure signal out, which goes out across the ethers and calls forth realities that are a vibrational match. Any distortions that you are still holding, any ego consciousness that each person is still holding, that's transmitting out. That's going out and activating every person that functions at that frequency, and it's pulling them to you. That's why it's so important to be so conscious of yourself, but it means taking your own blinders off.
Yes. And
being willing to see and realize that each person has the capability to shift this if their heart is truly open. If your heart is open, your mind is open. And that's what we didn't understand in the beginning. Higher mind consciousness means that you are living from your pure heart, your higher self heart. Higher mind consciousness means that you're actually observing everything and you're seeing the vibration and the energy everything's being created from. And that you're aligning it yourself. In the beginning, for all of us, we had to just get our heart open, which was the hardest part.
Yes.
So be patient when the rough moments hit. Those rough moments are what we call dissolution of ego constructs. Those rough moments are all of our protection mechanisms, all our walls coming down, being vulnerable. We have to be wide open and feel, when we don't like to feel vulnerable because we were so strong.
Yes.
Right.
And let me tell you, when I first started going through it, it was intense because you feel it's the opposite. Everything's the opposite here. So when you're at your most vulnerable and raw, you're at your purest, but you don't have any defense mechanisms.
Right.
And the walls have come down. And for the human ego, it feels weak, when in essence, that vulnerability is where your soul comes through. That's vulnerability is where your pure you comes through. And it's also where your power comes through. It's a different type of energy. It's a power as love. The control mechanisms, the protection mechanisms, that was the weakness. So everything's the opposite of what we thought. So when your heart blows wide open or bursts wide open and all those walls come ripping down, that's actually the best thing that can ever happen for any one of us. But it's intense when we're going through it, but it's necessary for our hearts to open to connect us all back up on a soul level again.
All right, I'm going to jump in and end on that note because it was a beautiful way to end today's show. I want to thank Lisa Transcendence Brown for being our guest today. I want to thank Linda Franklin, my wonderful co-host, and our wonderful friend, Lanzetta from New York City, and I want to dedicate this show to Lucy and all the Lucys out there, both personal and animal and human, whatever it is that opened your heart. We thank you for your service, and we will be back again soon.